All right, kicking off another episode of Zen and Callsigns, and I have a guest this evening or this morning, wherever you are, Bryan Stern, and he is the CEO and founder of GreyBull Rescue. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. As we usually do here, I'd love for you to start your background. I have a lot of veterans on, and I'd love to get what was going through your mind of 17, 18-year-old Bryan when you were about to enlist in the Army. What were you thinking? What did you have any desires or thoughts, or what was going on in your
Yeah, yeah. So I don't come from a military family. Military life and service is very often a family business, or at the very least a close friend business. Your uncle was in, your father was in, your neighbor was in, whatever. I didn't have that. I grew up in Queens where we didn't have a lot of that. My father was a lawyer and a judge. My mother was in the fashion and business world. I don't come from any government anything. Neither of my grandfathers were in World War II, so they're not even in that context. My connection to the military was small. I got sent to a military high school as a so-called disenfranchised youth. We have at the school that I went to. We have three distinguished alumni: Donald Trump, John Gotti Jr., and me. And it's
Yes.
remarkable how,
Yeah.
in some cases, how similar we
Well,
approach the world.
I get it. My dad was a lawyer, and I went to the Citadel, so I kind of,
New York Military Academy. It's a high school. It's like Lord of the Flies. Got graduated high school, and um, I didn't know, number one, I never planned on government or military or anything being a career, but I also knew that I wanted to do something better than just go to school. And, like that'll always be there kind of thing. So not that I was lost. I wasn't. I was not lost trying to figure it out. But I knew that I wanted to do something more, but I was like too young to become a cop. Like that's not going to work. And going from a boarding school to regular college, I tried that. I didn't like it. I went to SUNY Albany for a little bit, and all the kids that are like doing laundry for the first time, I went out and like got a job and started working, and
yeah.
it didn't appeal to me. It was more of an interest than anything else. So I joined the Army. I enlisted as an infantry guy, which was really funny because I did well on the ASVAB and stuff. And my initial recruiter didn't want me. I was supposed to be an air traffic controller, and I was like,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
if I'm going to join the Army for 2-3 years, dude, it was a short. I never wanted to do a long thing. I want to do a short thing. If I want to paint my face green and like run through the woods and like a bayonet in one hand and a rifle in the other and like whatever. And this is before nine
Yep.
11, so it was already like a stretch. There was nothing going on already. So if I'm going to
Yeah.
join the Army with nothing going on already, at the very least, I'll have a cool job. I should have been an air traffic controller. It would have been a more better.
Yeah.
Would have been fun. Anyway, so joined the Army, infantry guy, wound up as an 11 Charlie. So I started off as 11 Bravo, infantry dude, wound up also as an 11 Charlie, a mortar dude. And my time in the infantry can be measured in months, not even years. I very quickly get sort of recruited. It's wrong to say recruited, but I was recruited into Army intelligence, and I became what's known as a counterintelligence special agent and CI, right? Counterintel, which is what I've been for forever. And the best thing that ever happened to me by far. I am a dual qualed. I'm a CI guy and a human guy. People very often get those things mixed up. Human is a collection thing, collecting information and intelligence from people. So where are the tanks? What are the nuclear codes? Where are the IEDs? When will the IEDs go off? It's very interrogative. And, the truest form of human is interrogation, right? So there's two Homo sapiens in a room. One is not confused as to who the other one is. It's very obvious, right? Is much more offensive and defensive. It's really threat based. So it's the bad guys are able to do this. How do we protect ourselves from the bad guys? Or kind of my specialty is how do we get the bad guys to do things that they're not predisposed to do based off our desires, so to speak. So deception operations, double agent operations, spy hunting, and then spy flipping, that kind of stuff. So it's much more dynamic. It's much more threat based. So CI, if you have the privilege, which I did, to have a good CI career, it's an absolute blast, the absolute best job and field in the entire government. It's if you can get onto the right programs and get into the right units and agencies and stuff, it's an absolute roller coaster ride of awesome. And I'm a very, very, very proud CI guy. It's what I love to do. It's what I do best. I can't play the piano, and I have the athletic ability of a cucumber. But in the CI world,
What are the like qualities, let's say since you've done it for a while, that you look for somebody to be in the field or to do that job now that you're recruiting or hiring in that role?
yeah, there's a few big ones. One is the ability to develop trust in low trust environments. Hard, right? Right. And I mean, I do this now with GreyBull. If I go and sit with a group of people, almost everywhere I work, everywhere there doesn't like me already. I show up as the weak man, as the lesser power, right? I have no leverage whatsoever, yet I need to function. So if I'm in southern Lebanon and I'm surrounded by Hezbollah guys and I need to have freedom of maneuver on the street, how do these people hate Americans for sure. If they knew the detailed details about me, they would definitely chop my head off and use it for polo. They take hostages. They do all these bad things. How, being able to function in that kind of snake pit nasty environment where you actually have to legitimately get along with each other. It's not fake. It's real. It's a big misperception with this stuff is people say, oh, it's fake relationships. Well, the foundation of those relationships may be orchestrated, but you can't fake smoking hookah with somebody. You can't smoke having tea with somebody. You actually have to drink the tea and look in their eyes and somehow develop rapport. So that's a big one. And then having a suspicious mind where nothing is what it seems at all. Everything that's straight is curved. Everything that's curved is actually straight. Right? It's like looking through water. You ever take a straw and you put it in the water and it bends?
Correction. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
exactly.
straight. That's how I see the world. Exactly like that. Somebody comes to me and says, I'm here to help you. My shields go up. Someone says, I'm here to hurt you. I go, at least he's being honest and I can work with that. So what's black and white is white and what's white is black. Being able to spot that and be able to not just understand it, being able to process that information in almost an involuntary way, like breathing, right? It's an involuntary response. You cannot hold your breath for forever. It's impossible. Being able to smell a room, with a suspicious mind and separate the rock stars from the groupies, and then figure out amongst the rock stars and amongst the groupies who is most advantageous for you to target or use or flip or exploit or recruit or what have you for your purposes, thinking 8, 9, 10 chess moves down the road. Those two qualities are the most important by far.
Would you say that you'd had that contrarian mind from a young age? Kind of that's why you wanted to infantry, do something different?
Yeah. I grew up in not an, oh my God, crummy neighborhood, but a crummy neighborhood enough. I'm from Queens. And, when I went to Baghdad, and I worked the invasion of Baghdad in 2003, and I was co-located with a whole bunch of 82nd Airborne guys, and they're great dudes, right? Awesome. And a bunch of 313th MI, also CI guys and also humanitarians are there. And they're from like Wallakuchi, Mississippi and, nowhere, Wisconsin and whatever. And they're like, oh my God, we better, we need to make sure our QRF plan is or whatever. When I was in Adamiyah, Baghdad, I felt like I was in Brooklyn. It was like no big deal. Like I've been around lots and lots and lots of Arabs, lots and lots and lots of Muslims. I've been around Chinese people, Korean people, Dominicans. I mean, you name it, 31 flavors. Queens is a very, very, very immigrant kind of a place where there's parts of Queens where the street signs aren't even in English back then, before immigration stuff. All that drama. So when I go to these places, I just came back from Beirut 2 weeks ago, right? I went, oh my God, you were in Beirut? Yeah, I love Beirut. I'm actually looking at buying property in Lebanon. I love it. I think it's great. People are like, oh my God, like how could that be? Well, because if you're a street guy, you're a street guy. If you take a street guy from Beijing, China, and you take that street guy from Beijing, China, and you put him in, Bogota, Colombia, street kids are street kids are street kids, right? You ever notice, law enforcement is this way. We used to have this thing called the 2% rule as a tangent. We have a thing called the 2% rule. And the 2% rule goes like this. 98% of the world doesn't have a clue what's going on. Not a clue. They're shopping. That leaves 2%. That leaves the cops and the criminals. They're the only ones paying attention. Everyone else has their heads up their fifth point of performance, right? They're shopping, they're Facebooking, they're whatever they're doing, right? Whatever it is. You ever hang out with cops and a guy walks into like the restaurant or whatever, and that cop can say, whoever just walked in, oh, that guy's totally a cop. You ever notice that? right? You ever notice
Well,
that?
I do that exactly. My wife does that for me. She's like, "Oh, he's one." Yeah, she's same. So yes, they all carry themselves
There's
in
a
a
smell.
way, just like you're
Smell.
describing.
That there's a smell, and we all smell
Yeah,
each other. We all know, right? So for
yeah,
me, because of what I do for a living, theoretically, I'm both. I'm a bad guy
true.
who works for the good guys, right? So the way I see the world is very much through the lens of manipulation, deception, what some would say scams and hustles and all those things. When you do it for good guy reasons, we call it source handling. But if I convince a guy to work for me under false pretenses, that is no different. I mean, it's if it was for financial benefit, it would be called fraud. In the intelligence community, we call it work.
Yeah,
So it's, you know,
yeah,
the end state is a little bit different, but the tactics that are employed are not dissimilar. We're not cavalier with people's lives, never, ever, ever. Our sources are what we care about most. But the reality is, we absolutely talk people into doing things they would never in a million years even consider doing. We do that every day. So, the 2% rule is very, very, very much alive and well. And in my world, knowing who the cops are and who the criminals are, and what do you do with that information, and how do you take both
yeah,
of those categories and make them advantageous for you, and not forgetting what side of the fence you're on, because that happens too. People get way out there, and Donnie Brasco, Joe Pistone was the real
yeah,
guy. Donnie Brasco had some pretty big challenges because Joe Pistone was an FBI agent. Donnie Brasco was a thug. But when you're acting as Donnie Brasco, it can be easy to assume that
yeah,
and do some things that
yeah.
a violation of the FBI code of conduct.
Yeah. When you drink from the elixir of power, can you handle it?
And I'll tell you, as a guy who spent a lot of time in these different roles, it's way more fun to be a bad guy. It's nice to
Yeah,
be on
I
the
can
it's
imagine.
right. Fast forward, and we'll talk about it in a second. But with GreyBull, one of the things that I love about GreyBull Rescue is I don't have a colonel who's trying to become a general to tell me yes or no. We are completely unhinged. I am unattached. I answer to absolutely nobody, and it's wild how effective you can be without all the bureaucracy and all the noise and fill out your form in triplicate stuff. But I'll tell you, I've, I've had to do some compass checks, personally, some compass checks, because there's also no oversight. So once you're on the edge and you're over the line, and you're doing things that are over the line, which is fine when you're government because you have oversight and all those good, which are good things. Well, people say oversight with a bad word, with a stigma. But when I'm 20, 20, 30, 60, 200 miles behind enemy lines in Russian occupied Ukraine, breaking an American out of jail, there is no one around. I could do anything. I could strafe an orphanage of nuns, women, and children and handicapped people if I wanted to, and nobody would ever know because I answer to absolutely nobody. Now, I don't want to do that. That's because I'm not a lunatic. But if I were, it's fascinating how over the edge you can get. So, being able to have some, being mature and professional and not being crazy and all those things is also really, 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 really important. The weirder you get, the more sensitive and complicated you get, the more individual maturity you need to have also.
Well, and I think a couple of things there is one is, are you familiar with the book called Bleeding Talent?
I've heard of it. I've never read it. In fact, I think I have it on
But
my shelf.
yeah,
I haven't been open yet. I think it's like over there somewhere.
yeah, Tim Kaine, he's a guy, Air Force guy, but did a case study on the Army. And he basically talked about how the Army was bleeding its most talented people. Not everybody, but a lot of them. And then you just like the triplicate thing was like literally he used that as like a case study in the book where it's like, what are we doing here? We're that oversight. And I think, and then to touch on you now, it's like once you have oversight like that and you fulfilled a mission from active duty, government work for a long time. You have a balance, and I think that for especially like GreyBull now, it's like the purpose is to just rescue people that are unrescuable, quote, something like that. And that man, I can't imagine like kind of a higher purpose or mission. That sounds fucking awesome.
Yeah. I mean, imagine. I mean, you were military, right? Imagine if you could, if
Yep.
we've all been told no by some jerk somewhere
Yeah, a lot.
thinks that they know better and they actually don't. We've all been there. We've all been there. And from a ops perspective, at the tactical level, operational level, and strategic level, the higher you get and the weirder you get, there's more people saying, ugh, like, no, it's the right thing, but I got an election to worry about, so I'm not going to approve this.
Right.
Or I'm a 3-star, really want to make 4-star. I'm not going to float this up, or whatever. Or
Right.
we're about to go into trade negotiations. So what we're not going to do
Okay.
is, or reconstruction is X and we don't want to do this because of Y or whatever. There's a million
Yep.
reasons why things don't get greenlit. Imagine if you could stay pure and say, well, at our foundational core, the oath that I took when I enlisted was to the people of the United States of America. All that other noise is valid. I'm not minimizing it. I'm not the president. I'm not elected. Our system of government says that I'm not allowed to make those decisions. No sweat. But imagine if you could operate outside of that framework and actually answer your oath at
Yeah.
its purest foundational level. Well, that's GreyBull, where I took an oath that says, I will do good things for good guys and bad things against the bad guys for the people of the United States of America and not work against the country. Boom. There's an American that is being tortured to death by the Russians, and I can get him out. These align very nicely. These align
Yeah.
very nicely. And
Yes.
because I don't have any of those other issues, valid or invalid, it gives us freedom of maneuver that the government doesn't enjoy, not because they don't want to. You talk to the boys at Fort Bragg, or you talk to the boys in Virginia Beach, or you talk to any of these cool guy units or any of these cool guy agencies, all these guys are bloodthirsty that would do a much better job than me. So it's not a capacity issue or a capability issue or a are we able to? It's that's not the
Sure.
that's not the thing. But very often there's competing things at play, right? In Haiti, I'll give you a great example of this. In Haiti, we work Haiti. Gangs take over. They're literally barbecuing and eating people in the street, right? It took a minute for State Department to figure out how to do evacuations, but they started. They were a little bit late to the party. That's okay. That's fine. Ultimately, they figured it out. Great. And their play is if you're an American in Haiti, make your way to the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince, and we'll evacuate you out. Well, the problem is that U.S. Embassy is in literally ground zero of where they're barbecuing people. So you're safe in your house, sheltering in place, as you've been told to do the whole time. Now you're being told, don't shelter in place and go from where you're safe through who knows what on that route. Who knows what those streets are? And good news, if you survive getting eaten alive in the streets, we'll take care of you. And people say, absolutely not. That's crazy. And people like me get all frustrated, and we're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, why save Americans? In the nonprofit world, we get very, very, very soapboxy because we're passionate about what we do, right?
Yeah.
So I'm talking to a couple of folks, and mind you, at the U.S. Embassy, DOD smartly and rightly, by, with, and through state, plussed up numbers. They brought in a bunch of soft guys, a bunch of ninjas, cool kids with all the things and all the toys, more Marines, all kinds of stuff. So we have, the bright shining light of democracy is known as muzzle flash from the barrel of an M4, right? So we got good stuff. And I'm trying to understand why they won't fly helicopters to go pick up people. And a guy squared me away. A guy actually who I don't really like too much, to be honest, but he squared me away and he said, look, this is the deal. And he actually gave me the idea for what became our operation, which was really funny. He says, look, we can't fly Blackhawks with soft dudes into downtown Port-au-Prince, landing on these streets. If a helicopter gets shot down and they're dragging American soldiers through the streets, it'll look like Black Hawk Down Part 2, the movie. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That's not palatable. And it was a very real risk. Helicopters getting shot at and helicopters crashing. And that's and to his point, to his credit, this is a guy who I really didn't like, who we have a very strained relationship. But again, developing trust in low trust environments, I can get along with some of my dearest friends are people who I can't stand and who don't like me. So it was like this epiphany moment of like, got it. Now I understand. It's not a policy thing. It's not a desire thing. It's because the world lives on Instagram thing. The optics of that on Instagram are very, 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 very bad. Not because of election stuff and all that other drama, just from a national pride perspective. From there, where do we go? Do we invade Haiti? What are the second, third, fourth steps of that stuff? If a helicopter will go down and bodies are being dragged through the streets and it looks like Black Hawk Down Part 2, the movie. And like, what do we do? I get that. It's not such a mental leap for me to get there as an officer myself to go, let's not do helicopters. Let's do ground movement. Let's not do that. It gave me the idea to charter a Black Hawk, and then I started flying Black Hawks into people's backyards. So it turned out to be super cool. Our ops wound up, that's what we did. We were like, they won't do ground ops and they won't do air ops. That was a hard no. So we said, fine, we're going to take the idea that we had, and what we're going to do is we're going to charter a Black Hawk. Our Black Hawk looks like a super soaker. It's orange and black with all these stripy things all over it. And that's exactly what we did. We flew Black Hawks into the backyards of people's houses. We did density mapping. People would register, and we would find clusters of people all over. And instead of them coming to us, we came to them. And most people were able to walk to the landing zone, not even drive. And from there, my good friend Mike Durant, who's awesome from Black Hawk Down, used to have the record of how many people you can fit in the back of a Black Hawk. He had 28, I think, in 1992. Honduras summarily shattered his record. We got 33 Americans in the back of a Black Hawk in one day, not including flight crew. So 33 people. You've been in a Black Hawk, I'm sure. 33 people crammed in there like sardines in the middle of that Port-au-Prince. So, but again, people look at Haiti going, oh my God, how dare they not? Well, actually, it's not such a mental leap for me to get there. So we got to be fair and square and pragmatic about this stuff. Sometimes these things are to understand. Sometimes they're hard to understand. Afghanistan is like impossible to comprehend why that was done that way. Every procedure that there was violated. Every protocol, every war game, every foundational principle of a NEO, everything was violated. Very hard to understand why that happened. Things like Haiti, I can get there, even though it hurts me and I don't like it. I don't, even though it frustrates me as a patriot, as a veteran, as an American, as a guy who's there on the ground doing my thing. It's frustrating, but at the same time, I can understand how somebody said, this is just a bad look. This is the bad look. This is going to look bad for SOF. This is going to look bad for the unit. This will look bad for Fort Bragg. This will look bad for the helicopters, for the 160th, for the Army, for Southcom, for Haiti, for the president, for this goes bad. There's a lot of egg here. There's a lot of egg.
And I think that's easier for people to understand in that sense of it's Haiti where that's understandable. Where in Afghanistan and being a Marine and pilot B-22s, that NEO, that was our mission. That's like trained to that. And among other things, part of the BLT and that part of the AMU. And to see that was kind of a question for you that I had. What's your, strategic intel mind thought on the exit there? Because there are, as you just said, it's like any Marine, you're like, hey, what was that? What were you doing? Like, what happened? Or where are the commanders? Or, did we have actual intel for the Abbey Gate? What's your hot take or what's your thoughts?
Abbey Gate. So we were on the ground running around doing stuff. It's how we started on our nonprofit journey. We used to have another nonprofit. Everybody left, and we launched a new one called GreyBull. With respect to Abbey Gate, we all knew Abbey Gate's like January 6th. Everyone knew that there were attacks that were stopped. There were other bad guys that were taken care of before Abbey Gate because everyone knew that something was going on. Like, there's enough bad guys in Afghanistan where you can't swing a dead cat. So it's one of those things where like a whole ton of people who love America are, around, it's a mass. This is like right out of the anti-terrorism force protection online class we got to take, right? Like the number one target on a base is the chow hall because it's a whole bunch of people, mass casualty target, soft target, easy to hit. Like, we do that stupid thing every year, right? So this is that. So, it's not exactly cosmic to understand that, a gajillion people trying to cram through a couple of spots that all really apparently don't like the Taliban, don't like the idea of staying in Afghanistan, and seem to really want to come to America. Not such a mental leap to get to, let's go kill these people if I'm a jihadi lunatic. So with Abbey Gate, again, the Marines and the Marines and the sailors and the Army guys that were manning those gates, they were dealt a dumpster fire. If it starts off, it's if you ever work in if you ever been near like combat hospitals and stuff, right? Guys roll in through some night through some medevac bird, and they're like, their heads are missing, and the platoon leader's there, and Doc, can you do anything? Well, you know, like, I'll do my best.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about this one. He's got no arms, no legs, and and his brains are in his helmet. Like, I'll do the best I can, but if this works out, it's still gonna suck for him, right? That's the withdrawal of Afghanistan. Is that like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. There's no way that they could have on that timeline. And that's really what screwed everything up, is the timeline.
Sure.
The reality is the administration wanted to say, and I'm not political, but it's come out that the administration wanted to say that they wanted on the 20th anniversary of 9/11 that the war was ended. Okay, fine. I get that. I think it's a little silly to base tactical operations based off a talking point. I think that's a little not, and I think that sets you up for failure. If they would have, government and the military and everybody would have said, all right, well, we're going to initiate a NEO, and we're going to do what we need to do pursuant to the NEO handbook. We're going to do all those things, and we'll go as fast as we possibly can. There's a procedure for this sort of thing, and we're going to follow that procedure. If they got done in a week, that's great. If they got done in 6 months, I guess that's what it takes. And that's it. I was a fan. I was a fan of leaving Afghanistan. I thought I was one of these guys that kind of thought it was dumb. I went to Afghanistan kicking and screaming. I thought it was kind of silly, to be honest.
Well, back onto another point into bleeding talent, and like I always thought, as of right now, my understanding is like one guy got fired that was a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps in Camp Lejeune for that. And I'm like kind of back to our previous kind of mentionings of like, there's not a single general that was like, hey, let's do it in the time frame you're talking about, right? Meet this arbitrary deadline. Let's get maybe as much out as we can, not leave some real high-end equipment. Let's get all these people that are going to definitely die, like thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are going to be summarily executed probably, so we can not totally leave and discredit the US. So, that's my diatribe. But what do you agree to some degree, or what's your thoughts?
So it's one of those tough questions, right? So in our system of government, there are only two people that can deploy and withdraw troops: the President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense. Our military is run by civilians. That's what prevents us from having a military coup. So that's a good thing. General McKenzie was the CENTCOM commander at the time, Marine, a brilliant man. He's read more books than any six people. I mean, a wonderful, 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 thoughtful, good guy. And I met him a few times, and I know that the withdrawal of Afghanistan haunts him, especially after Abdicate, haunts him. And the reality is that as a four-star general, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the job of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs is to be the principal military advisor to the president. That's it. The chairman can't deploy troops. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of the entire thing, the highest ranking guy in the military, person in the military, cannot deploy troops, cannot withdraw troops either. Can't make a decision. He can execute stuff, but he can't say, this is what we're going to do, sir, right? Hold my beer. I've only been doing this for, my name is General Milley, and I've been doing this for 40 years. This is how we're going to do it, sir. He can't do that. What he does is he says, sir, this is the deal. Here's your dumb idea, a good idea, and kind of a medium one, and I recommend the medium one, or whichever way. And but at the end of the day, it's the commander-in-chief and the Secretary of Defense. That's not a political thing. That's just the way it is. I'll tell you, as a guy who's worked a number of operations that were greenlit and stood down at that level, I've worked a number, many of them, programs, initiatives, collection operations, hits, rescues, all kinds of stuff that required presidential approval or at least SecDef approval. That process, again, it's not lost on me that General McKenzie or General Milley or any of these guys, all they could possibly do is like resign their commissions and protest. So if you're General McKenzie, who cares? He cares. I have seen his eyes tear up over this stuff personally. And we're not friends at all. I've just met him a few times, but I've heard him speak about this stuff. If you're General McKenzie and you care about your Marines, and you care about your troops, and the president or whoever is telling you to do something that you don't believe in, you can resign I hereby resign. Make headlines? Cool. Number one, 4-star generals grow on trees. They'll find somebody. It'll be okay.
Yep.
They'll find somebody that will salute smartly and execute. Probably the way it works. It's the way it works, right? They'll find somebody that'll go, "You mean I get to?" Oh, yes, sir. Drive this thing off a cliff. Deal. Right? They'll find somebody from the, Guamanian National Guard or something to command the withdrawal of whatever, right? Who knows? If you're General McKinsey, you can resign under protest and make headlines and everything else, knowing that this is still going to happen and that they'll find somebody who's probably not you, who's not as good, who won't care as much, and that person will be put in charge. Or you can try and put lipstick on a pig and do the best that you can with what you have in accordance with the commander-in-chief's direction. That's a tough call. It's a tough call. I'll tell you, if it were me, because I'm a big mouth and I'm a jerk and I'm, some of these guys are warrior diplomats. That ain't me, right? I will never have the diplomacy medal. Of all the awards I've gotten, diplomacy isn't going to be the one.
Yeah.
I would have been yeah, Mr. President, watch this. I'm retiring anyway. Meh, and go out with a bang. But that's probably a little immature, frankly. The smart play is to, if you care, is to stick it out and do the best that you can with what you have, because it's going to happen anyway. The president says yes, and that's the way it's going to be. And there's nothing you could do about that as a general. It's a 4-star general. So it's one of those very, very, very tough personal calls. I would argue that if he would have resigned in protest, some lesser person would have been put in, and I would argue it would have gone even worse, which is pretty crazy to say. That's pretty nuts to say. So, these are tough. What I have learned in my nonprofit journey and doing ops and GreyBull and everything else, what I have learned is a newfound respect for leadership. Having to make some of these, and I've been in command and combat. I was a task force commander at Task Force 71 in Afghanistan, led big teams, small teams, big budgets, little budgets. I've done all this already. There's always been someone above me. I've never, ever, I was a field grade officer. So yes, I've been in command, but there's also 20 layers of people between me and the people that actually have to answer for my mistakes. Right? It's one of the big things that I've taken away, one of my big takeaways is when you're truly at the top, right? When you're a 4-star general and it's like, you're one away from the president, if that, or direct report to the president, right? It's the decision-making process is different. It is different. Your assumption of risk is different. Anyone can quit. And I think that's what General McKinsey was thinking in Afghanistan. I know for a fact that if he were king for a day, it would have gone down differently. I know that definitively. What do? Screw you, write a book, I quit, and more Marines die? And more Marines, what would have happened if he would have quit, a week, he would have said, I'm not doing it this way. And Abbey Gate would have happened, right? And 200 Marines got killed, right? Or worse, right? So these are the issues you got to wrestle with this stuff. And so when we say no accountability, the plans officer who came up with this plan, that guy should be shish kebabbed. Shouldn't have even been an option on the table that should have even been considered. But once the president says this is what we're doing, I want people fired also. I want accountability also. It's disgusting and a complete national disgrace what happened. And I lost friends that day, Afghan friends that day. And we were there.
And I think the bigger tragedy is the Afghanistan people. I know that we had Marines and our active duty guys die, but I feel like the Afghanis that supported us is probably the biggest tragedy.
And also, the whole thing. I have a Taliban visa in my passport right now. I've been back a few times since the fall. No one, it's us and one other group is able to go back and forth, and we're friends. When you go to U.S. Embassy Kabul, before you publish this thing, I'll put the pictures up so you can insert it here. There are Taliban flags, like giant murals, 20 feet murals on U.S. Embassy Kabul, and around it, around the whole perimeter, around the whole blast wall, around the whole perimeter is Taliban propaganda that basically says, "Dear America, we kicked your ass," with American flags being pushed down by the hands of the people of Afghanistan and stuff. 20 years later, 20 years of war, to see the Taliban literally, hosting dinner parties in the U.S. Embassy in Kabul with propaganda around it, forgetting about all the other things, what that means, how that feels, setting that all aside from a from a terrorist recruiting perspective, they are able to say with confidence, they won and we lost. So if
Yeah.
you're some poor kid on a playground somewhere and you're trying to maintain your moral compass, you know that doing things are bad. If your father taught you well, right? And a bad guy recruiter comes up to you and says, obviously, if you believe in God, you'll be with us. And I can prove it to you because we beat the Soviet Union and we beat the United States of America. Clearly, God is on our side. Therefore, what I say is the truth, and therefore you should do what I say, and therefore you should strap a suicide vest to yourself. And that is not a far walk. That is not a far walk at all. And the reality is, factually, it's true if you go by
Yeah, I
facts.
mean,
So,
yeah, it's like you type in what war have we won in the past 20, 30 years into Grok, ChatGPT, or a couple other AIs, and it'll say that we won them. However, maybe long term, and I'm like, what? What? No, and like you're just described to me a decisive victory for the top. It
yep.
took 20 years, and
Well,
they're still there.
and what's crazy is anchored to Al Qaeda's biggest victory. That's so stupid to me. That's the thing,
Yeah,
right? They're able to say, they're literally able to say on the anniversary in Al Qaeda, they call 9/11 is called the Great Victory, right? Is what they call it, the Great Victory, right? We're called the Great Satan. So it's a great
right.
victory against the Great Satan. They're able to say, right? On the anniversary of the Great Victory against the Great Satan, we beat the Great Satan. And that's our timeline.
Yeah,
That was our timeline. That's so silly to me.
yeah,
We talk about domestically like January 6th and all that other stuff. Imagine if January 6th was on July 4th. A dark day in American
right,
history, July 4th. That doesn't sound right. That
right.
anchoring bad things to good things or vice versa, you need to be sensitive about. So again, that timeline was our timeline. And they're like, you idiots. They're like, you
Yeah,
morons.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Why,
agree.
why would you tie it to our biggest day? From the Taliban and Al Qaeda perspective, since 9/11, they've been getting their asses kicked. Why would you, like their last good day at work was 9/11. It's been pretty tough since then.
Yeah,
Anchoring this big success to their last success. It's just, it's like anything else. I mean, this is like football stuff, right? You win the Super Bowl, you go rah, 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 and it motivates people. It gets people to, all that stuff. So
yeah.
it's complicated, right? Complicated.
Interesting.
But not so hard to understand.
With all that being said, and before we got online here, we talked about veteran suicide a little bit. And I'd like to know, what is your philosophical operating system to manage your mind, body, spirit to keep doing what you're doing now and to, stay alive?
Tough question that I'm not sure I know how to answer well. Let me try. GreyBull Rescue. We're a nonprofit, veteran-led, donor-funded international rescue organization. We operate in what we call the gray space, which is the space between the private sector and government and war in this weird, icky area that nobody likes to talk about. We're not quite black. We're not quite white. We're somewhere in the middle. We work in places. Our mission statement is to rescue Americans and allies from danger, wherever that may be, whenever that may be, where generally speaking, the U.S. government can't get to. So what does that mean? We don't rescue people from Sweden, right? That's not us. We're talking about, we started in Afghanistan and then expanded into Ukraine and then Russia and then Sudan and then Israel, Gaza. I'm missing one. Haiti, I think. There's one more that I'm missing. We did the fires in Maui. We did Hurricane Ian's, Idalia, Helene, and just a few weeks ago, Milton. And somewhere in there, we did Lebanon this week also. So that turns into just about 700 operations in 39 months. That turns into over 7,100 lives saved globally, which is remarkable. It's a lot of people, we're the first of a lot of things. So we landed the first airplanes and took off the first airplanes out of Afghanistan after the fall, right? Rescuing 117 Americans that got left behind after the Marines left, after the C-17s left, where the Taliban controlled the Department of Motor Vehicles. Taliban flags everywhere. That at the time was the largest private rescue of Americans in history. Fast forward to October 7th, we do 293 Americans out of Israel, where the airspace was closed and Iron Dome is going off everywhere and it's all nasty. What's different about us versus all the other different groups that are out there, and there's lots of really great groups that do really good work, so I'm not picking on them, but what's different about us is that we do the ops ourselves. So of the 7,100 people and change that we've rescued, I've personally put my hands on, personally, as me, about 5,000 of them. I always say, we're like Tom Cruise. We do our own stunts, right? We're not a coordination element. Most veteran groups that are in this space, that's kind of what they do, is they know a guy, they know somebody in Afghanistan who has a safe house, and they have someone who asked them for help, and it's all about coordinating, getting their friend who needs help to the guy with the safe house, then figuring it all out, and all those other good things. Honorable, good work, no sweat. We're different because I don't trust people. So every safe house that we maintain in the world, I have personally used the plumbing in because I want to see with my own eyes. Because the reality is the Taliban has deeper pockets than I do. And I'm not going to send somebody into a safe house that I can't control because some guy somewhere says, trust me. No, especially if you're an American, especially. So the first victim of war crimes alive since World War II was arrested by the Russians on fake charges of espionage, and we broke him out of jail. We've broken 12 people out of jail from Russian captivity. That's 12 more than the CIA. So my point is, and what's fun is nothing we do is classified. And then we record everything. So our videos are wild. The Russians sent a hitman one time to kill me and a couple of other people. We got that on video. It's wild. He's not with us anymore. So may he rest in pieces. So anyway, with GreyBull, having said all of that, crazy ops, helicopters in Haiti and chartering planes into Wadi Said in the Sudan, and the only Americans that were held in Gaza, 5 kids, the only 5 to come out that were being held was us. This past January, we got 5 kids out. Hundreds of people from Rafah, all kinds of stuff. It's still just a continuation of service.
Yeah.
Meaning when I was in uniform, I didn't wear a uniform. When I was out of uniform with the government, I didn't wear a uniform either. And newsflash, with GreyBull, I still don't wear a uniform. So there's not even a costume change, not even a wardrobe change, right? There's a financial change, that's for sure. And there's which is bad, right? We're a nonprofit, GreyBullRescue.org. Shameless plug. We need help. Yep. Badly. Helicopters do not fly themselves. But there's also a dramatic increase in ops tempo and ops efficiency. Dramatic. There is nothing. I reject the thought that we don't have in the U.S. arsenal people that can do everything that I do and more and better. I reject that. It's just not true. We have buildings of ninjas that do ninja things. Buildings of them. I used to be a ninja. We used to have lunch together. I know. I'm not the only one. I'm not some clairvoyant, mystical, magical, whatever. I'm belly button lint in the scheme of things. I'm nothing. I'm absolute dog shit. The catch is that, so if that's a true statement, which it is, at the same time, I have nobody to say no. So that allows me to serve, and that allows me to do, that allows me to not be a spectator. I don't have to watch it on TV. When I was in Haiti, I have a friend of mine from one of the special mission units who was in Haiti at the same time that I was in Haiti. And we're on Fox News, and we're flying our helicopter around, and we're having this whole big party. It was super cool, and all the videos look like Black Hawk Down. They got videos of me and one of my teammates running out of the helicopter. It looks like Gary Gordon and Randy Stuttgart running to Mike Durant. I mean, it looks just like that. It was awesome. Visually speaking, it was like, wow, I can't believe my fat behind was able to do that. I'm so old. I'm like, look at all that gray, so super cool. And my buddy, who's a retiring E9 from an SMU, is at U.S. Embassy Port-au-Prince, and he's watching his friend me on TV doing what he wants to do. And mind you, this guy, who's a friend, has medals that I would wear to bed. I mean, he's got all the stuff. Yeah. I got nothing. I was never that guy. I got nothing. But it's remarkable hearing from a guy who's part of a unit whose budget is so big. My entire operating budget is like a rounding error for brass pickup on the range or something, right? Right, lug nut grease in the motor pool was more than me, right? To hear him go, man, I can't wait till I get out so I can work for you, man. Can't wait, bro. can't wait, bro, can't wait. Like, I go on terminal in like July, and then I got like 8 months of that, and like, whatever. But as soon as I'm done, man, I like, where, like, do I got to fill out an application, dude? Like, what do I got to do? That's crazy. That does not track. That does not track. That should not be. But that's the way it is. So for my team, who are not all veterans, big misconception. Everyone thinks that we're all kind of like ninja types. Not true. In fact, my team has gotten so big, we're not even 50% veteran at the moment. We've got nurses. I got a guy who sells ventilators to hospitals, who's tremendous. I got a guy who owns a bunch of car dealerships, who helps us out, right? The kid that I broke out of jail from Russia is now on my team. How does that make sense? We call him a twin pin because he's like alumni and staff. How does that work?
Yes.
Right? So, and we got a bunch of SEALs and we got a bunch of ninja dudes and some agency folks, and we got all that stuff too. But what makes us so good is not that. What makes us so good, frankly, is that GreyBull represents what America not just used to be, but actually still is. It gives me hope. We have Muslims, Christians, and Jews, right? We have Muslims, Christians, and Jews. I've got gay and straight. I've got people who don't know if they're gay or straight. I've got Army, Navy, Marines. I've got civilian veteran. I've got fat and skinny. I've got hairy and bald. I've got far left, unhealthy left, and I've got far right, unhealthy right. The weirdo, this is, you get all of us together. It looks like the bar from Star Wars. It's, right? But at the end of the day, everyone works together and does the right thing.
Yeah.
So how does that work? That gives me hope for
Well,
America. We talk about being divided and all these big issues and like, oh my God, 47% versus 47%. The world is going to stop turning. What are we going to do? There's going to be a civil war. The country's going to fall apart. All this stuff. I look at that and I laugh and I go, just come on and hang out with us for a weekend and you will have hope. If Paul Revere were alive today, he'd have a GreyBull patch on his horse. We're just Americans.
Yeah.
So for my veterans, for the veteran folks that work with me, we have a rule. We have a board member who went to go pitch us in front of a bunch of important people. And we're a humanitarian organization, right? We ostensibly ride in on unicorns that puke rainbows and fart glitter. Ostensibly. He says he goes to pitch us in front, and I'm in the room, and he goes to pitch us in front of all these big CEOs and gajillionaires to donate and stuff. And he says, what's great about GreyBull Rescue as a humanitarian organization is our board has the highest body count of any humanitarian organization out there. And I look up, I was like, number one, facts. Number two, I don't think we should advertise that. But it was this really funny moment where all of my folks like to serve. It's why they showed up. That's why they went through BUDS. That's why they went to Damnick. That's why they went to Fort Bragg. That's why they went to agency or all these different places. None of them were, we don't have any admin guys. Right? In fact, we need admin guys. I'm recruiting military admin folks as we speak. But my team is very, very, very purpose and mission driven. We're an operational element. We're not a food pantry. We're not raising money for Gold Star scholarships, which is honorable. And God bless the people that do that stuff. I'm not dissuading that. I'm not disparaging that, rather. God bless that. I do a lot of stuff with Gold Star families. The kids need to, they're national treasures. All about it. I'm not picking on it. That being said, that's not us. We do things. We are ops. We are not a staff element. You're a pilot, right? You could do your staff tour, or you can go fly. We fly.
I just want to fly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. We're actually terrible fundraisers. We're terrible nonprofit people. We're
How many galas have you thrown?
I mean, that ain't
Yeah.
we're not good at that stuff.
Well, circling back on that, and I think you answered it in a way where, a lot of veterans and first responders take their own lives in an inordinately large way and
Yep.
cross section to the rest of the country, world, wherever. And I see how GreyBull gives a sense of purpose and mission again, and that when you lose that, these men and women kind of I'm referring to, they lose that mission. And maybe their ego was tied to the branch or whatever that was, and then they're an accountant or something, then it's depressing. It's all of those things creep back up in, and so really having a purpose. And I think even for you, like having that mission of Like I don't know, there's not many higher, service things you can do, service to others than rescuing them. It's pretty incredible feeling. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, no, I mean that's it, right? Like we have guys that would have taken their life, that they're open about it, that have
Yeah.
faced some pretty good demons. Those demons are, thankfully I don't really suffer from it, from PTSD, thankfully, or PTS, whatever, thankfully, but a lot of my friends do. And I'm a functional sociopath, I guess. I always pass my psyche vals, so I guess I'm doing okay, but I feel like they like push me through.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
mean, I think you have a purpose still. Like you've kept that going and of
like
fulfilling that service in another way too.
I always look at the guys that like, and again, everyone's thing is different. So, it sounds like I'm judging. I'm not.
Yeah.
But I always look at these guys that are like, I was a SEAL sniper and I'm going to go do capital markets at Goldman Sachs. Like, I don't know how you get
Good
there.
luck.
God bless them. Next chapter, whatever. There's people do it. It is what it is. But for me,
Yeah.
not that when after I got out before nonprofit land, I had a business, but my business was very much this kind of stuff. So it was still, I was still very connected to it, consulting and stuff overseas. So it's still very much my world that I came from. So my transition was very natural for me, right? Me personally. With GreyBull, it's not transition. It's continuation. It's a wardrobe change, and we're broke. Other than that,
Yeah.
the boys are the boy. I run GreyBull like I run a team room. You gotta have thick skin around here. We're not quite a locker room, but we're operational. It's like being in a firehouse. So I think that culture and that camaraderie. My men and women put their lives at risk. We don't charge money, and we're not paid for free. So, like in Haiti and Ukraine and Afghanistan and all these other crazy places. Beirut, just came back from Beirut and rescued this kid, Zach, who was all the way down south, surrounded by Hezbollah guys. Surrounded. Embassy was trying to get him out for 7.5 weeks and couldn't figure out how to do it. I mean, he was in a bad spot. Hezbollah everywhere, and the Israelis are bombing everything. On the good bad matrix, he is buried in the bad. I mean, he's a bad spot, right? We went and did the thing and went to the place and did the thing with the people and the guys and did all the things you needed to do and got them out for free. And we don't charge money. What would happen? What kind of medals do you think you would get if a military team of ninjas went behind enemy lines, surrounded by the bad guys, with no QRF, no 9-line, no resources, completely and totally cut off, putting themselves completely and totally in harm's way to rescue an American citizen from Hezbollah terrorists that want to play polo with people's heads, who are taking hostages, who have American hostages, who are doing things? What kind of medals do you think you would get? Like, this is like Navy Cross stuff. This is Medal of Honor stuff. That was called Tuesday for us, right? Now, we don't do it for medals. We don't even get a thank you note from the government. So culturally, how do you explain, as an adult and an educated man, how do you explain that people who are brilliant, who are smart, intelligent, capable, all those things, will take time off of work, go to Lebanon, go to southern Lebanon, maybe get kidnapped if you're lucky, possibly get killed, about 20% chance, depending on the day, right? Depending on what's going on, with no help, no mommies, no daddies, no Ospreys to come pick us up, no QRF, no 9-line. If I get shot, you're working on me. If you get shot, I'm working on you. If I'm working on you, you're going to die. 100%. I sucked at all that medical stuff, right? Sucked at it. And then not be paid $2,000 a day like the old Blackwater contracting days. Why do they do it? They do it because as a veteran, you took an oath. And
There's no expiration date on the oath.
no expiration.
I read that. Right.
That's one of my. I say it all the time. I
Yeah.
took an oath, and it didn't have an expiration date.
Exactly.
It's like somebody. I was just doing a thing. I was just giving a speech the other day, and they're doing Q&A, and they go, why do why do you do it, Bryan? Like, right? And I go, well, look, it was still a bunch of cops, right? So I had like, I spend a lot of time avoiding the police department globally. Love law enforcement, but like, right? Because I'm on the edge. And I go, well, let's say you're walking down the street and there's two guys raping a girl, right? And beating her up and raping her. Some people see that and it's like in an alley. Some people look down the alley and they go, wow, so happy that ain't me. And they go back to Facebook, right? Some people say, wow, that's really terrible, but kind of not my problem. So you know what I'll do is I'll call 911, take me a second, and they call 911 and they report it. Some people will say, we'll take it a step further and say, I'm going to call, well, I'm happy that's not me. I'll call 911. And you know what I'll do is I'll just watch while I'm on the phone and kind of help out a little bit, but I'm definitely not going to get involved. Then there's people that say, well, I live in Florida. This is a Second Amendment state. That's pretty bad. I'm not going to watch. I'll call 911 because no off-duty police work. 911, this is what's going on. This is what I see. This is where I am. So and by the way, this is what I'm wearing. So don't shoot me, okay? And
Yep.
you go up to the two bad guys and you say, look, bros, I don't want to kill you and you don't want to be dead. But understand, I'll make your wife a fucking widow. Not everyone's built that way. Stop raping the girl. Rape is bad. Don't do bad things or you meet people like me and I'll eat your lunch. I'm a really nice guy. I'm not so nice when I'm angry though, right? You hurt my people, you take my people, you do things against my people. I'm a nightmare. I'm pure concentrated evil to the extent that I passed my psyche evals, which is fundamentally flawed.
Well, and I think yeah, Joey, go ahead. Sorry.
So there are some people, everyone fits into some of those categories, right? Generally, right? In that scenario. So my team are made up of the last one where they're going to say, you know what? I'm going to do what is right. I'm not going to do what's convenient. I'm not going to think about, I'm not going to be cavalier. I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to go pick a fight with, 2 7'2" gorillas who got machine guns and I've got a toothpick. I'm not going to be dumb about it. Right. But what I will do, though, is I'll set conditions for my success so that I can take out two 7'2" guys. I can do that. I can teach my sister how to kill Mike Tyson. I can do that. It's not so easy, but I can train her to it. And I'm trained for that sort of thing because I'm old, gray beard, gray bull.
Yeah.
Right. So, I might be fat. I might be slow. I might be old. But lots of really, 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 really experienced people have tried to kill me. And I'm still here. There's a reason why. So my team has this ethos of, we don't want to do bad things and we won't do bad things and we're humanitarians. We're not. But we're also bulldogs that won't take no for an answer. We will keep coming and coming and coming and just working that lock and trying and trying and trying until we win. And we have a union rule. We have a company policy. We only buy one-way tickets. When we deploy, we do not come home until they come home. We are incentivized, and we're there. We're there with the people. People say, well, how are you so successful? It's, well, because I don't want to live in Haiti. That's why. I don't want to live in Sudan. Sure. That's why. I don't want to live in Lebanon. I don't want to live in Haiti. I don't want to live in Gaza. I don't want to live in Israel. I don't want to live in Ukraine, Afghanistan. I don't want to live in any of these places that we work. So it's like Cortez when he burned his ships. His troops got motivated.
Oh, yeah. Burn all the ships if you want to conquer the island. Yeah.
Right. And we go to places that you inherently can't get out of. It's why we're there in the first place. Yeah. So it's not like, I tap out. I'm out of here. Not so easy. Yeah. So my men and women, we have both that go to the field, are patriotic at a visceral level that it doesn't give them a sense of purpose. It is purpose. There's no sense of purpose. There's not a theoretical emotional experience. Right? It's not, give a hoot, don't pollute.
I think that's the fallacy for a lot of guys where it's like that is you're fulfilling a purpose. Like that my purpose is like helping these people where you're like done, you're bam. Where I think a lot of veterans they leave the military and they question who they were serving. A big part of it. Where now like what you're doing is we're just simply the politics are out of it. This person needs help. We're gonna help them.
It's primal. It's prime numbers. It's, I struggle with the same exact thing that you're talking about where like, especially during the withdrawal of Afghanistan, I was like, I've buried so many friends in the war and, spent a lot of time there. I did both. I did Iraq and Afghanistan. I hated Iraq. I was never an Iraq guy. I just never got into it. Afghanistan, I really enjoyed. I like the people. I like even from a war perspective, I like the bad guys better in Afghanistan, the purpose and 9/11 and all that stuff. When I went through that moment, it's what started me. I'm watching the withdrawal on TV. I'm watching all this stuff, and I've got like tears in my eyes. And all I'm thinking about, I had to wear Keiko. I supported the Keiko for this real big catastrophe that had happened in Navy SEAL land. In August 2011, which was like another like terrible event in my career. I just working with families over and over and over and over again who lost their kids and stuff was traumatic, really like scarring for me personally, just as a soldier
Yeah.
and just the whole thing. And I'm watching the withdrawal and I'm like an emotional roller coaster. I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm pissed,
Yeah.
I'm
Same.
disappointed. I'm all over the place, and I was out. I was out. I was done with this chapter of my life, and succeeding was doing great. Doing great. Landed beautifully. Had a business. Had a few businesses. Everything was great. I got this. This whole adult thing and life thing. Got this piece of cake. And I'm watching this whole thing, and that emotional roller coaster, and with tears in my eyes. I mean, no kidding. When what got me going, really, I was a 9/11 first responder. I was in both collapses, okay? As an E4 in the Army, which is really funny, right? It's a whole other story. The
Yeah.
exit hole, I was at the base of Tower 2 when Tower 2 got hit. So the exit hole of Tower 2, when Tower 2 got hit, all that crap fell on top of me, to give you an idea, right? So don't get much closer, right? What got me crazy was breaking news on TV, seeing the C-17 take off. When that breaking news thing happened and the Afghans falling from the plane, I was working on my keynote speech for the 20th anniversary of 9/11, which is just a few weeks later. The withdrawal was August 2021. 20th anniversary was 4 weeks later. So that was like August 12th or something, or 14th or something, right? That's what made me nuts. And I'm working on my 9/11 speech, which is already an emotional thing for me, right? One day, I joke about it all the time. There's one day in my entire career I wish I would have called in sick, and that's 9/11. I was briefing that day, so I couldn't. If I wasn't briefing that day, I would have called in sick for another whole other thing. So, 9/11, so I'm working on my 9/11 speech, and I'm watching the fall of Afghanistan, and I mean, I am an emotional basket case at this time. I'm really not struggling, but I'm feeling there are a lot of old wounds being just ripped open and just dousing lemon juice in. I'm really upset. Breaking news: C-17, the Afghans falling from the plane. I'm working on my speech, and I go, "What planet am I on?" 20 years later to the day, almost. People are the last time I saw this was what I'm writing about in my speech. Like, what the? No. I reject this. I'm not going to watch it on TV. I'm going to do what I do. I'm going to pack my crap. I'm going to go forward and I'm going to go do what I need to do. And I know that I can, and I know that I'm capable, and I know that I'm smart, and I know that I have the network, and I know, and I know, and I know. And this is what we're going to do because it's the right thing to do, because I know it is. I don't need permission. There's nobody to tell me no. There's nobody to say you can't. There's no one to say, but haven't you thought of this? There's no one to say, not a damn thing. And my team, from that, spawns this global thing that we now call GreyBull, where everyone on my team, Republican, Democrat, left, right, man, woman, gay, straight, whatever, they all kind of feel the same way. And we have a lot of differences internally. We have a lot of differences of opinions on political things and Ukraine and funding the war and is it our thing and, lots of political things. When it comes to saving a life, nobody cares. It doesn't matter. It's these are all irrelevant data points. It doesn't matter. When you call 911 and you say, my house is on fire, they don't say, well, did you vote for the mayor in the last election? Or did you pay your taxes? Or what's your
Yeah.
party affiliation? They don't say that. They say, what's your address? We're on our way. That's what they say. They don't care. They don't care. It's irrelevant. All that other stuff is nonsense. It's noise. It's other things. Relevant when it's relevant. Important when it's important. But when lives are at risk, none of that crap matters. None of that matters. I have no idea the political affiliation of the 7,126 people that we've rescued. I could not tell you. I'm sure we got plenty of Republicans. I'm sure we got plenty of Democrats. And probably some independents too. I have no idea. I don't care. Their passport looks like my passport. That's what matters. That's what matters. And they ask other people for help, and help ain't coming. That's the mistake. So where GreyBull is a continuation of service. When I go to a former Delta guy or a couple of SEALs or a couple of ninjas or some of the guys that are on my crew, and I go, you won't believe it. There's this guy, his name is Blake. He's stuck in southern Beirut. He's in southern Lebanon. He's in Hanaya States. He's been asking state for 7 weeks for help. He's up a creek without a paddle. No one's coming. What do you think we should do? Usually the question is, is Anna my
When
EA
do we
buying
go?
tickets? Like, usually it's, so what's my flight? It's not even a question. Not even a
Yeah.
question. It's not, let's sit around and have a meeting about it. It's, so we're going to go through Turkey this time because last time in Turkey, they didn't like us so much. But if we bounce through Cyprus, we can do this and this and this. We go, it's remarkable. When I bring up a case in our team, no one ever debates the merit of the case. No one says no.
It's beautiful.
No one
It's
says
beautiful
no,
to hear.
right?
You've been doing a lot of life and death stuff for a little while. Tell me about the intersection of luck and skill.
Need 2 scoops of both. Uh, two scoops of both. You can have all the skill in the world, but without a lot of luck, that skill, chance favors the prepared mind, right? It's like that. You need to be able to exploit all opportunities as they present themselves, because we have this theory called a PACE plan. I don't know if pilots have PACE plans. Primary, alternate.
I'm familiar with it, but please explain.
So you have when you're doing things, you have a PACE plan: primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency. It's like 4 kind of categories. For us, I spend all my time on A, C, and E, because probably my primary way, my plan A is never what we actually execute. Almost never.
Yeah.
In fact, I struggle to think of a single thing that we've done where plan A was what was actually done. General Patton said that plans are not worth the paper that they're printed on, but planning is invaluable. And that's very true. Very true. I drink that Kool-Aid. So
No, that's a Marines contingency plan first.
yeah. The kid that I broke out of jail, the original plan was get him from where he was at. We've done a few jailbreaks, but the one that we're like really famous for, get him from where he was at into Crimea and into Sochi, and fly him on a jet from Sochi to Yerevan, Armenia. We didn't use a plane. We didn't go through Sochi. We didn't go south. We went west. We didn't do this. We went by car. We did a mousetrap, not a direct. I mean, it just nothing of the original plan. The actual plan that was executed was Plan Juliet, a Plan J. So I was like deep in failure.
To be comfortable with failure all the time, where it's the mindset that I think to plan on that, plan for it to be fit to fail the first couple times or whatever. Plan for it to be super difficult because it goes from your job, what you're describing, to then just life, just
Yeah.
living whatever it is you're doing next.
It's I always tell people, we put a man on the moon in a washing machine, in a dishwasher, without email and without PowerPoint in the 60s. It can be done.
Yeah.
It can be done. It can be done, right? So, having the mindset of it can be done. That's the, when if you ever do anything with locks, like safe locks or anything like that, safe locks, the security ratings of a lock is predicated on how many man hours it would take to defeat, right? So you have a 10,000 hour man lock. You have a 50,000 man, for top secret information, the lock that's on it, now the X12 used to be the X09, to defeat it, the dial is like it takes like 10,000 man hours. And therefore you can keep it so high, right? But what's fascinating is any lock in the lock industry goes into it predisposed to know it can be defeated. It may take you 10,000 hours to do it, but 10,001 hours later, it can be done. I did this red team. I used to be on the DoD red team at DITRA, which was a blast, right? You get to break into places and piss people off. It was a little academic for my taste, but really just awesome. And we're doing this thing at a military base, big military base that pretty much everyone's heard of this military base. The president flies there a lot. So on the north end of the runway, so the first thing you do when you're doing physical security stuff is you do a perimeter check, right? You're looking for a hole in the fence, right? Because sometimes God loves you and sometimes God loves you and a hole in the fence. And when we did this stuff, we had rules. So like we couldn't jump over a fence. And the idea is there wouldn't be anything for the base commander to fix. If you have a 10-foot fence, what are they supposed to do? Make a 20-foot fence? So you try to keep it relatively fair and square with things that either procedurally they can fix or physically they can fix, right? You're trying to exploit a procedural vulnerability or a physical vulnerability. This is very much what we do in GreyBull all the time, right? When I'm looking at how to defeat a checkpoint, right? If I'm watching how they're checking IDs, right? If they're not taking it out of the wallet, they're just looking at it real quick, right? Procedural vulnerability, exploit that all day long because I can make paper. That's not hard, right? If they're zapping them with a gun or if they're typing in a computer, a little bit harder for me to defeat that. Right? So I'm working this base, and it's me and a partner of this really awesome SEAL, great guy, and he thinks I'm a lunatic, and I'm an intel guy, right? I'm not an SF dude, and I'm not a SEAL, and I'm not a MARSOC guy. So basically, I'm dog shit. No problem. Do this perimeter walk. And on the north end of the runway, they were doing construction. And there's this huge, giant construction gate. And on the gate is this monster, huge lock. Huge lock. But it was a dial lock, like a luggage lock, where it had, 6 dials, right? And I was like, we're on. He goes, what do you mean? And I go, we're on, right? And the DoD lock program says specifically you have to have a key or a cipher lock. It can't be that because there's 999,999 combinations. And I bet that God loves me more than the lock. So I bet that I can get there, in the 500 somewhere. Pardon me. There were 5 dials, not 6. There was 99,000 combinations. Yeah. So I go to my partner, Tom, and I go, God loves us, bro. Yeah, high five. Like, we got this. We've been here, like, this is our first day, and we're on. I get all excited. And he's like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, look, man, we'll come back in a few hours, wait till the sun goes down. We'll bring a headlight and a pack of cigarettes, and we'll sit here. And I'll start at 0000, and I'll just start working, just dial and pull. God loves us. Probably we get through right around the 5,000 mark, halfway, right? 50%. And he's like, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And I'm like, screw you. I'm not out of my mind. This is how I'm getting on. I don't know how you're going to get on, but I got my way. So pound sand. And sure enough, we have to record everything. So I got like a GoPro. This is a couple of years ago. So like GoPro wasn't a thing yet. We had these other cameras. So I got my GoPro and I'm recording all this. And what you see, back then I used to smoke cigarettes. So back then what you see is my stubby little fingers in the lock, right? And like smoke coming out of the camera. And sure enough, 4,000, it was like, I was in like the 14s. It was like 14261 or some random number. Not only now do I have the code, not only is the gate open, now I can open and close and lock it and come and go as I please. So I go get me a hard hat and a road guard vest, and now I'm driving on the base. I own this. Sometimes, sometimes God loves you. Sometimes. Yeah. So, but the point is that, patience is good, right? Patience is good. Measure twice, cut once, and all these kind of funny sayings that we have, they matter. And as long as you commit to we're going to win because we're going to win, and we just have to figure out a way to get there. I will beat this lock. I just have to be patient and figure out a way to do it. I will beat this lock. I will get this kid out of captivity. At the end of the day, the guy that's watching him puts his pants on in the morning just like I do. His boss puts his pants on in the morning just like I do. His boss puts his pants on just like I do. Well, 3-4 key people and then defeat some security protocols. I can get him out of a cage. The real issue is now we're out and we're on the run. How do you go from 200, 300 miles behind enemy lines with someone that's wanted? That's actually the way harder part. 52 Russian checkpoints. How do you do that? That actually becomes the real art for that particular operation. That's where the real
I was saying that's just like it's just started then at that point.
This is SEER school. SEER is one of the things, you've been to SEER, I'm sure. And when you do when you're in the box, one of the things that you learn is have an escape plan before you escape. Because you can pick your lock and get out of your box. And now you're in the main courtyard of having a PowerPoint meeting with all the jail guards.
What do you do?
Now what happens? Now they lock you real tight is what happens. They really bring you to ground. Now you're really stuck. So, have your, having that plan before you initiate. So all these concepts, but it all starts with, we're going to win. No one it's going to work out. It's going to take some time. Maybe it'll be hard. Maybe we need some luck. We need some love light. We need some things to really go our way. that
Did you say
sometimes,
love light?
yeah,
Well, so I have a real simple terms or like kind of little saying that I don't know if I made it up, but I kind of it's I operate with love and compassion because I think those two things make shit work out for me. And I think if you think that way, they just work out. But I'm always ready to kill a motherfucker.
yeah,
And I
that's
think
it.
that that's like a good balance between the two, where like, hey, listen, I want love, and because that's great, kids, and like everybody, like that's everybody's gonna be happy. You can't have maybe too much love, but to always have that, that in the background, to have it available. I
Yeah,
think it's important even for like just men, masculine men, to have that capability to protect
yeah.
what you have, what you own.
I think people always ask like, how do you work with these people, Brian? They're so bad. Well, because I'm not an asshole. When I go to sit with a bad guy, if I'm in Russian occupied Ukraine and I'm looking at a Russian dude, I don't start the conversation off with, what your country is doing here is really terrible. I can't believe, like, this is terrible. Let's talk about what I need you for. It doesn't work. We've all picked up girls before. If you go to flirt with a girl, you're at a bar and you go to flirt with a girl, right? And like, she's got bad skin. You don't go up to her and say, "Wow, my name is Blake. Good to meet you. I tell you what, I overheard your conversation. I just really thought you were just so funny. I really want to kind of get to know you a little bit better. By the way, you have a dermatologist? Like, that's
Yeah,
not how you win that
right.
operation,
Exactly.
right? It's not how. So it's don't screw people. Don't hurt people. Be, generally speaking, good and ethical and
Yeah.
moral and all those things. And just know that who you're talking to, in my world, that's how I operate. And recognizing the fact that most people that I'm talking to are not of that same ilk, which is fine because I'm ready for it. So I'm allowed to be honest. Like, people say, well, how do you do what you do when you're on TV? I use it to my advantage. When I go to sit with a bad guy, I can say, hey, look, man, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to rescue Americans and I need your help because these are your streets. Let's figure out a way to get to a yes. You don't believe me? Google me. I'll wait. You got an iPhone? No sweat.
Yeah.
I'll wait.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Yep. See, yep, there it is. There it is. That's who you're talking to. So I'm a real guy, unless you're telling me that
Yeah.
you're not a real guy. You're not telling me
Yeah.
you're not a real guy, are you? Then I'm talking to the wrong guy. Who's the real guy? They'll
Right.
go, no, no, no. Let me demonstrate to you how real I am. Good. You can not weaponize, but take advantage
Sure.
of some of this stuff. In the Middle East, everyone has to be a big deal, even if you shovel shit. Everyone's a
Well,
big deal.
well, I think you described it well. Like what do you need in an extremist situation? Like do you need guns or it's like no, you need probably have read is it Napoleon Hill, How to Win Friends and Influence People? That's probably your strongest, the best bet.
I mean, people ask me that. I get that question all the time. Well, what do you carry? What do you carry overseas? I get that.
Yeah.
All the ninjas. I was just doing this event this weekend, and with these paratrooper dudes, I'm up in
Because you're
Canada,
like you're like this, bro.
and all these guys, like, it's so funny because they all say it the same way. They all like, "What do you carry, bro?"
Yep.
And I'm always like, "Nothing," and they're like, "What? That can't be." Well, if you think about it, our model is the Jedburghs from World War II. That's our model from the OSS, right? So it's 2-man,
Yep.
3-man. It's real small. If I have a 2-man team and we're 300 miles behind enemy lines in Russian occupied Ukraine, and between us and the border are, 80,000 Russian bad guys that, if they knew, would slaughter us like sheep. And let's say I get into a gunfight. How big would the dump truck need to be of the ammo I would need to tow behind me to survive the gunfight? Right?
Yep.
Like a Glock 19 with 3 mags. I got this. No, not even making it to the border. They're going to make spaghetti out of me. So the name of the game is don't get into a gunfight. In fact, it's better if I get caught armed. I'm a spy or a criminal or an assassin or a special operations guy or a ninja or a whatever. But you can't talk your way out of physical evidence. It's a problem. It's one of the first things you learn on the street is never have anything in your pocket that you can't defend. Nothing. So when I travel overseas, I have different luggage that I use. Right? I have different everything. I wear different shoes. Do all kinds of weird TTPs that we employ to keep things clean, so that whatever is entering the organism, I can control. So that if I get rolled, and it happens, You go into secondary, I mean, things happen. Cops get the wrong idea, security services get the wrong idea. It's not all stuff. It just, sometimes when I fly into Beirut, they look at me like I have antlers coming out of my head because you're an American, you're not government, and you're here. Why? Like what?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, they want to know, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. So they, you go into 20 questions, which is fine. So one of the things they make you do is for their safety, they do a search. If you can't explain every little thing, now you're interesting. I don't want to be interesting. I don't want to be interesting. I want to explain every little thing. And sometimes we even do things like we put fun stuff in our pockets. That way, when they say, "What the hell is this?" Well, actually, I use it for my work. Yeah? What's your work? Well, we're a humanitarian organization and blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you all about it. What happens is that gets put into a report, and now they know who we are and that we're not a problem for them. That's a good thing. Understanding how all this stuff can work. Everyone says, "Oh my God, you could put into secondary, it's a kiss of death and you have to leave right away." Yeah, that's people who don't know how secondary works. That's people who don't know how to travel, who don't know how security works, and don't know how CI works. It can be a very good thing. It can be very advantageous. It gives you the opportunity to explain who you are, what you're doing. They'll believe it or they won't. If they don't, they'll do surveillance on you. If they do, and you do everything you're supposed to do, your story will match your pattern and they'll go, "You're telling the truth. Let's move on." Now no one's mad at you anymore. Now everything's okay. And that's better. So thinking through these problems and how you're going to deal with them and address them in a cogent way that's effective is we spend a lot of time on that because things go wrong. Things get screwed up. People get the wrong idea. I got detained in Cairo. They thought that I was an agency guy. And when the security services called the embassy said, "Doesn't work for us," which was true. The Egyptians didn't believe it. They thought that they were being lied to. So they got mad at me. And in the end, it all worked out. And now we're friends. It wasn't exactly comfortable, but you need to be ready for that sort of thing. You need to be ready for that sort of thing and use it to your advantage. And what happens? Flip that all around. Fast forward, me and the guys in Cairo become really good friends. Fast forward, that was like February 2023. October 7th happens. I need to do things in Gaza. The border at Rafah from Gaza is in Egypt. Guess what? The same guys that got mad at me, who I'm now friends with, can now help me in Rafah. That was for Sudan. One thing had nothing to do with the other.
Yeah.
But if you're not a jerk to people and you say, "I get that you're just doing your job and I can appreciate that. And I don't really like the way you do your job because I was on the receiving end of it. Don't exactly love that, but it's not lost on me that you're just trying to protect your country and you don't know who I am." That's not a mental leap. I can put my ego in check and say, "Yeah, I got that." Right? If an Egyptian guy showed up in JFK and had my profile, I'd probably ask him some questions too. Makes sense? So let's be bros, bro.
Exactly.
Let's be bros, bro. And that mentality of, "Oh yeah, well, I'm an American and you can't." They're going to say, "All right, American gringo, your embassy has said they don't know you, so we're going to hold you for a month just to figure it out, okay? Welcome to Gen Pop." No, thanks, right? Better to be bros.
Exactly.
Even with people who may not like us too much. Agreement, if you are on one side and I'm on another side, and we get to a spot where I can tell you, "Let's agree to disagree. Let's agree to disagree." One of my famous lines when I'm negotiating, right? About anything, who cares? "Let's agree to disagree." I'll ratchet it all the way up, right? All the way. And then I'll get to a spot, I'm like, "Look, there's a lot of distance between us. Let's agree to disagree on this point, okay?" Right? Any normal person, even a bad guy, will go, "Yeah, okay, I don't want to talk about this anymore either. You talk my ear off," right? So we agree to disagree, right? And I get the guy to go, "Yes." That by itself is an agreement. The inherent value of agreeing to disagree is that there's an agreement, right? So I'll take that and I'll say, "Well, look at us. We're agreeing on things. Let's agree on some more things. This is not one of those things, but let's find some more things that we can agree on. Let's talk," right? "You have kids?" And they go, "Yes." Funny, me too. I don't have kids, but I'll say that I have kids. "You have kids? You love your kids? I love my kids. We can agree on this also. We can agree. We don't exactly see eye to eye on things, but we can agree that we each love our children. The guy that I'm trying to rescue, his kid, I'm talking with the father of this kid that I'm trying to rescue. He loves his kid too. The same way you love your son is the same way he loves his son. The same way. You can agree that you love your children. I can agree that I love my children. And he agrees that he loves his children. I need your help. And you see them doing the math. That makes sense. Yep, I'm drinking your Kool-Aid. Yep. I just had that conversation with a guy that would absolutely want to like gut me like a fish and not get any on his shoes. So being able to take a step back and say, we're all inhabitants of this little blue planet, and we all put our pants on in the morning, and fundamentally, 2 + 2 = 4 in any language. Fundamentally, we're way more alike than we are different for my purposes. And the differences we avoid, the similarities we exploit to get to where we need to go in low trust environments. This is how you do it. You find the commonalities between me from Queens and some whoever in Lebanon, and you find those common threads and you say, we can agree on these things, we can agree on these things, we disagree on these, but we can agree to disagree. That's an agreement. And now we're cooking. And what happens? This poor kid from Las Vegas is sitting in Las Vegas now. He was stuck for 7 weeks. Just happened. It's not cosmic. We've all done it. Just in my world, we're a little bit more methodical about it. And it's way scarier. And the stakes are way high. It's very scary what we do and where we go and what we do. And so that sucks. And there's no resources, which sucks. And the stakes are really high, which sucks. So a lot of things about it that sucks. But when you win in a situation
Yeah, man.
filled with things that suck, it's twice the victory.
Oh man.
But when the Yankees beat a Little League team, it's not a big deal. When Little League beats the Yankees, it's a huge deal. It's all baseball.
Yeah.
All baseball.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Yeah, it's like the obstacle is the way, the fear is the way that is always like more rewarding. It was a question that I like to ask sometimes is like, what is your superpower? And I think you've kind of already told that in a way where if you could distill it down into like a couple words,
Just
what do you think that would be?
being able to talk and relate to people that are generally hard to talk and relate to, right? When an American goes to Saudi Arabia and all the Saudis are in, thobes and keffiyehs and stuff, like the man dress and the tablecloth on their head. We look at that and we go, what the hell is that? Why is this guy wearing, a muumuu and a tablecloth from a picnic table on his head? What is with an iPhone? Like, what is that? We look at that. Conversely, when we get off the plane and they see us in like blue jeans and a collar, and a shirt or whatever, right? They go, that looks so confining, so constricting. Why don't they wear this? This is just so much better. Why would you want 2 legs? Why would you want that? We don't think of it that way. We think of it as like, wow, that's kind of just odd in 2024. I think as Americans, we're very quick to not that we're inconsiderate people, because we're not, but like when we see something that is different than us, we're very quick to go, wow, that's weird. Well, generally speaking, when that same person is looking at us, they're looking at us going, wow, that's so weird. It's, so being able just to relate to that a little bit and not be afraid to, 66% of Americans don't have passports, 2/3. Yeah. It's a very easy stat to understand. We know how many people there are because of the census, and we know how many passports have been issued, right? So 2/3 of Americans can't understand the world outside of their iPhone if they wanted to. That's very straight. As a guy who's been to 72 countries, that sounds crazy to me. Like it's, you ever meet those guys that have been in for 20 years? They've been in through, they're like, you see this at CENTCOM all the time, right? You get the J2 at CENTCOM, right? The J2 staff, you have all these like majors and lieutenant colonels and all these senior guys or whatever.
Yep.
None of them ever deployed anywhere. Now that's okay. But like as an intel guy, weren't you like morbidly curious? Just, like, didn't you want to know what you were reading about? Like you could have come up with some reason to go to some meeting, to go to do some stupid thing in Kabul or whatever. Didn't it just morbid curiosity pique your interest, And it's fascinating how so many people, when you tell these stories, you're like, oh my God, you went to Lebanon? Yeah. Lebanon's a Christian country. There's Jesus stuff everywhere in Lebanon. By law, they're required to have a Christian president. By law, codified in their constitution. And people are like, that can't be true. Google it. Fact.
One of my favorite books, Dune, and they like similar kind of things, you like adaptability, or just like when you're presented with this impossible situation, and you've encountered these a lot in your career, and it's like having this open mind, childlike mind where it's like, man, I don't know anything. Like literally, you're in situations, the most possible things when you don't know anything. It's kind of like that quantum
Yeah.
entanglement where you're just, I don't know anything. So maybe, God willing, it will come to me, and then that it does sometimes. And then maybe that's that cross section of luck and
Yeah.
skill and all of that coalescing together for it to work out.
It's real stuff. I tell everyone. My crew gets all like, "Oh my god, we've had ups and downs. We've had some organizationally and as a team, we've had ups and downs. Nonprofit world sucks. It's the most
Yeah.
cutthroat, nasty, disgusting, horrible, bad industry. It's worse than politics. It's just vile. The people in it are terrible. The kind of scams that are out there are just gross.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't. My picture is all over this other group's website where they take credit for me all the time. We've
Oh
sent them
man,
cease and desist letters, and they still use it. Like all
these
kind like
motherfuckers.
yeah, it's like stolen valor. Just gross,
Yeah.
bad people to raise a buck. So we've had our fair share of problems and challenges and all those things, and it's very easy to get melancholy and very easy to go, oh my god, what are we going to do? We got to change our name. And then I tell people, we did this
Yeah.
big group call and everyone's like, oh, they're freaking out and everything. I go, okay, everyone, right? I'm pissed off too. I'm pissed off. All right, let's just take a knee, drink some water, do a compass check here, right? If you're the kid locked in a closet, do you care about the name of the organization rescuing you? You don't care if it's DevGru, the CIA, the State Department, GreyBull Rescue, or the Ladies Auxiliary of the VFW. You don't care. Who cares? It doesn't matter. The mission doesn't change. Half the things I've done have been in units that don't have names. Doesn't seem to stop me. Doesn't seem to stop me at all. I don't care what my business card says. In fact, it's a miracle that I get to wear my own socks nowadays. I've had so many names. Like, this is no sweat. Well, how are
Yeah.
we going to do it? Well, we're going to buy a domain, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to set up email, and it'll be okay. And they're like, well, yeah, well, what? Well, what? We know what we're
Let's
doing. We
go.
got the skill. We know how to do it. LFG. And they're like, what's LFG? Let's fucking go. I'm done talking about it. There's a
Yeah.
guy, one of my dearest friends, in the world, who's just a wonderful man, was Secretary of Defense for a time. And he compares me to Bill Donovan all the time, who's the founder of the OSS, right? And Bill Donovan. And Bill Donovan was from New York, incidentally, and was kind of a organized chaos kind of a guy. And he called the original members of the OSS, he called them glorious amateurs because it was lawyers, it was accountants that they taught how to jump out of airplanes. They taught how to use, a 45. They taught how to use radio crystals, and they taught how to use a small pocket knife. And they jumped in, hundreds of miles behind enemy lines, parachuted in with the orders of land, live, make friends, find Germans, and kill them. And 2-man teams, 4-man teams. And that's where the OSS started. And then from there, we get CIA and SOCOM and JSOC and the rest. But that kind of vision of it'll be okay. I could teach a rhesus monkey how to shoot a gun. No problem. So we're going to take
Yeah.
lawyers. This is what we'll do. We'll take lawyers, people that know how to talk to people. This is what we'll
Yeah.
do. Lawyers. And people were like, you need soldiers. Yeah, I can make a lawyer a soldier. I can't make a soldier a lawyer, though. So this,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Exactly.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So he, at the OSS Society, they have a pin. It says BLD. It says, be like Donovan. Be like Donovan. Break the rules. Break the rules. It's okay to break the rules.
Yeah.
Don't break the law. Don't break the law. Don't compromise your ethics and your values. Don't compromise what makes us, right? Don't do that. But rules are written by some guy probably who doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Probably not, right? It's in aviation land. Your envelope, your specs of how you can fly your bird, right? You have your regular rule book, then you have your combat flight book, right? And even then, your bird can still perform more than what the book says. I don't care about the book. The book, that's adorable. That's quaint.
Yeah.
That's for the lawyers to understand. That I operated in the performance of the aircraft. How adorable for you. I want to know what's the maximum effective potential of every single thing I touch. And wring out all that potential to go as fast as we possibly can. Because when people are in trouble, speed is the problem. Speed.
Yep.
If you call 911, you're already in deep shit. Already. That's why you're calling. GreyBull is the last resort. We're never the first call, ever. We're never who you call first. We're the absolute, we've called everybody we can possibly think of. Everyone I know has called everyone that they know, and everyone says no. Everyone says too hard. Everyone says it can't be done. Then you call us and we say yes. We say yes. And they go, well, how is it going to happen? I don't know yet. I don't know. But we put a
Yeah.
man on the moon in the garbage can in 1963. It can be done. And people go, oh.
Right. Well, I'd like to, when you do your first gala to raise money, please let me know because I'd like to go to that and I'd love to donate a painting for that to raise some money. So, yeah, when's your first gala going to be then?
Don't know yet. We need a sponsor. We need a sponsor.
All right.
We need to buy a venue is what we need.
Okay. Yeah. But please let me, I would like to attend and I'd love to donate a piece of artwork. It typically goes over pretty well at, patriotic, this type of thing. So draw a pretty penny. And I have a good auctioneer as
Oh,
well. So that's
cool.
important. But I'd love to, and I think you can just raise some money since you've mentioned a few times that you're looking for some money. Well, Brian, thank you for your time. If you can kind of, this is incredible almost 2 hours, an incredible background on yourself and everything you do. I'm a little bit jealous sometimes of some of these things, and I have these, I reminisce on my previous life, and sometimes I'm like, hey, I'd love to do it again. And I know that you give a purpose and mission to a lot of men and women, and you save a lot of lives. So thank you very much for your time this morning, Brian. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. I had a good time. Had a good time.
Absolutely. And if you could just make sure to plug your website and all of the details real quick before we head out.
Yeah, GreyBullRescue.org is our website, and we have Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and something else. I always forget what else we have. But we have all the social media things, and GreyBullRescue.org is the website.
Excellent. All right, sir. Have a good morning, and I'll see you around.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.